Hello everyone, I'm Bruffy1322 and welcome to another GTA fact-finding video. So, as covered before throughout various episodes of this series, the in-game stats in GTA are awful and completely false most of the time. If you're still using stats to determine car performance, be it in-game website values, speed or traction bars in Los Santos Customs, most in-game speedometers, or even most external spreadsheets or websites, you're not getting accurate information. Now, to really get down to it, you need testing. Any kind of testing is better than nothing, but so often it's possible to have bad testing due to a lack of effort or knowledge about what proper testing is. In those cases, you might as well not bother at all, and at times it can even make it more confusing. Proper vehicle testing, or proper anything in life really, it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of work to ensure that things are the most accurate as possible. And even then, there's always going to be certain limitations to whatever you do. So in this video, I'm going to explain what proper testing is, what bad testing is, what it takes to fully understand car performance, and explain some limitations that you always have to keep in mind. So first of all, what is bad testing? Well, basically drag races. I mean, drag races are terrible ways to test, or any kind of testing that is against somebody else. You've got all sorts of different variables, including different internet connections, all sorts of different lag and latency and things like that. Explosions that you may use, if you use a sticky bomb to start an explosion, they will be seen at different times depending on people's internet connections, and the person who either throws the grenade or throws the sticky bomb will see the explosion before everybody else. There's all sorts of different abilities of drivers, not just when it comes to racing around a track, but also in terms of drag races when you need to reduce wheel spin on launch and things like that. There's controller issues. There's a few controllers, especially the DualShock 4, that is notable for having the right trigger that sometimes breaks, which means acceleration and top speed can be reduced by that when a controller is broken. There's all sorts of free roam bugs if you're testing in free roam and doing drag races in that way that don't affect in regular races that we've seen in the past. So basically, there's too much variation when it comes to drag races or racing against anybody else to use it as a form of proper testing. With variation comes a wide variety of different results, and it's impossible to know which one is correct. Now, proper testing is all about minimizing variables. We see too many variables, or a lot of which I've just listed when it comes to drag racing or racing against other people, and that incorporates more error. And when you try to do some proper testing, you're trying to minimize the variables so that you minimize the errors that you have within your testing so that you get some accurate results. The only variable when it comes to car testing should be the car. They should be driven in exactly the same way, in the same area, by the same person, and so on and so forth. It takes a hell of a lot more time because one person has to do everything, but it is a lot more accurate. But that's not all, you have to also be clear and transparent about what is being tested as well. A short drag race only tests acceleration, it doesn't have anything to do with top speed. A long drag race tests a bit of acceleration and a bit of top speed. A full top speed test will only test top speed and won't tell you anything about acceleration, and a circuit test will tell you about cornering, acceleration, top speed, and how it all translates into a racing situation. But even so, you can never be 100% accurate for every single scenario. That's why you have to be transparent with the testing that you're doing, so people know what the testing applies to, and also then know the limitations of that testing. Now, as an aside, I'm going to mention curb boosting at some point in this video. For anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's the process of compressing the suspension of a car to increase its revs and make it go faster by going on and off curbs in the game. It's a common thing that's used in GTA racing to make cars faster, and for more information, see the video that you can see linked on the screen right now, or in the description as well. Now, proper testing is something that I like to consider myself to do on this channel, so that all the information I put out there is very accurate and something that you can trust. And as I mentioned earlier, proper testing is all about minimizing variables and minimizing the error that you have in those tests such that the car is the only variable. Not testing in lots of different ways with different drivers in different cars in different situations. the car should be the only thing that changes from test to test, and every other aspect of the test should be exactly the same. So I could test in a lot of different ways, and this is something that sometimes people will ask me. I could use a long track in Blaine County or the Vinewood Hills, a shorter, smoother track in Grapeseed or Sandy Shores, a super bumpy circuit in the city, or a city circuit around the docks or Vespucci area. I could test on an off-road circuit or a stunt circuit with tubes and jumps, or even a normal circuit with stunt pieces, and then all of that in rainy conditions as well. In addition to that, for top speed, I could test with a long downhill slope or a long uphill slope, on a completely flat, long stunt road, both using and not using the outside edge curb boosts, on a super bumpy city road, and then all of that with cars that are stanced, and then all of that in the rain as well. And then anything else that anyone can think of as a different variation of what they might like me to test. Now, each method of testing would produce slightly different results and be applicable to different scenarios, as different cars are better at different things. And given the differences are all very, very small and only relevant to the top few people who race properly in this game, the benefit of testing all these different ways is quite limited. Regardless of that, it is absolutely impossible to do it anyway. It's difficult enough testing more than 400 vehicles in two ways, lap time and top speed, which is what I do, and obviously this is a reason why I don't do any other tests in terms of acceleration, which is a very difficult thing to measure, and also just the fact that it is so time consuming already just doing lap time and top speed, and I think that those two sort of they cover the two most important bases in terms of vehicle performance. But trying to do every single vehicle in every single scenario is absolutely impossible for one person to do. If you think I've done 400 vehicles in terms of testing in two different ways, go back and listen to me ramble off all these other different ways that I could have done this testing. That is a lot of testing, and it's just impossible for one person to do. So that's why I always encourage others to do testing of their own, be it just personal testing. They choose a few cars and choose a certain track that they want to try and then give it a go themselves, or on another aspect of getting other people to put out results in different scenarios and different situations that might help other people depending on the situation that they're in. More testing is better for everyone, as long as it's done properly and scientifically, so as not to give any accurate information, and the testing that is done is transparent and explained properly, then nothing wrong with that at all. You always have to take a critical look at the testing that you're seeing, obviously, but more testing is always better as long as it's done properly. Now, as a quick example, imagine I decided to also start testing vehicles on the North Loop, which is a long Vinewood Hills circuit that takes about 5 minutes to get around one lap. Now, consider the amount of time it would take not only to do 10 laps, which is the minimum that I do for every car under normal circumstances, 10 laps at 5 minutes a lap, that is obviously 15 minutes, you're looking at closer to an hour for one test for one vehicle, but also factor in the fact that it would take more than 10 laps to get a perfect lap, given the amount of tiny mistakes that are going to naturally occur when driving. Just one mistake in a 5-minute lap is enough to completely ruin that lap in terms of testing when it comes to getting the maximum from a car. The longer the lap and the more complicated the testing, the longer it takes to get accurate results. So that's why I test the way that I do. My track is basically a good baseline, though I never ever claim it to be correct for all situations. It has slow corners, higher speed corners, a tight hairpin and a more open hairpin, a long back straight and a full throttle first corner, with some acceleration zones in there for good measure. It's also relatively short and not too difficult to get a good lap time on it, so it obviously takes time regardless, but it doesn't take as much time as it could. Similarly, the piece of road that I use for top speed testing is the flattest piece of road on the map. It's not as flat as a stunt piece road, but you're also very rarely on a completely flat stunt piece road for a prolonged period either when it comes to actually racing. So in the same way that I could go out of my way to curb boost all over my track and get quicker lap times than I show, or drive purposefully worse and get slower lap times, I could also show top speeds that are both higher and lower depending on the circumstance. top speeds on flat stunt pieces and uphill sections are lower than the top speeds that I show in my testing, and top speeds in the city going over bumps and on downhill sections are higher than what I show in my testing. And although the overall order of cars will be very similar regardless of what's used, it won't 100% match up in every single situation, just in the same way that some cars are better on hill circuits and others are better on longer high speed tracks. I just prefer to test all the vehicles in a small number of ways than test a small number of vehicles in a lot of different ways. I personally feel like it's more useful that way to the majority of people, whereas more specialised testing of only a few cars is only useful to a smaller subset of the community in general, and also likely those who are capable enough to do the testing for themselves. The important thing is to ensure that whatever testing is done is well presented, thorough, and it's transparent. My testing methods are all noted down in the description of my testing videos for anybody to replicate, and the laps and the top speed runs themselves are shown in the videos. Changing the test even slightly for one car means that it isn't comparable with the testing done for other cars, so it's important to be consistent in the methods chosen. Whether you agree with the methods I choose for testing is up to you, of course, but I personally believe that the track I choose for lap times has a good mix of multiple aspects to give an overall view of car performance, and the piece of road I choose for top speed is a good balance between knowing how quick a car is at its slowest top speed and its highest top speed based on the circumstances. Like I said, its top speed will change and it is a hugely variable thing in this game. It's all about finding a good middle ground between the extremes and testing in a situation that is most commonly found. You're rarely in a situation where you can't curb boost even on completely flat stunt pieces, and you're also rarely in a situation where you're constantly curb boosting as well. I could test at either one of those extremes, but it wouldn't tell me much about what happens in any other situation. I personally aim to make my testing as general as possible so it's accurate for a lot of situations and can at least give good insight into what happens at the extremes. And although I am very transparent and I explain a lot of this in the descriptions of my top speed and lap time testing videos, I did want to make a special video about it like this just to clarify it for everybody, so you know what my testing is applicable to, what I'm trying to achieve with the testing that I'm doing in particular, and also know the limitations of that and the fact that there are different situations and different scenarios where things might be slightly different. And that's what testing is all about. As with most things in life outside of mathematics, there's never a single answer that is always accurate in every single situation, and looking for it is an exercise in futility. There is no answer to the question, what's the quickest car in GTA, because there's so many variables in that. Is it the quickest car for someone who's not very skilled, or for the very best driver in the game? Is it for a circuit or for top speed, or is it the quickest car on a short drag race? And which circuit, in which top speed circumstance? I could test 5 cars in every circumstance possible, but I personally prefer to test all 400 vehicles in the game in 2 distinct circumstances, which I believe are the most applicable to most situations and give the best view overall of car performance, and then allow you guys to take from that what you will, be it from your own testing or just deciding that my testing methods are enough for what you need to know. After all, there is only so much one person can do. And that's pretty much it for this video, just a bit more of a clarification on the kind of testing that I do, what makes up good testing and what is bad testing. I hope that my testing will continue to be a useful source of information for you guys, and I will continue to try my best to give you the most accurate information as possible, but it's always good to know the limitations of such information, and it's always good for the person testing these things to be as transparent and informative as possible, not only about the test results that he gets, but also about the testing itself. So guys, thank you so much for all the support that you always show me. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.